Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, right? I always got it's a holiday week. You never know the way it's going. Hey, this is Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Tonight's show a little bit different. Tim Buckley may or may not be joining us because he's tracking strong storms up there. We're tracking storms as well, but here's the interesting thing about our pattern today. Most of our storms have been pretty tame. This is kind of, I was joking with James here that we're doing the Gold Carolina split. The stronger severe storms are going north and south. And while we were concerned for some flash flooding, we really weren't concerned for severe storms in our area. The setup just wasn't there. But up in Tim's neck of the woods, we do have some strong storms. So we'll start with the radar, kind of lay the groundwork, what's happening. If you're watching in the Charlotte metro area, you're probably noticing, there are some showers around, but for the most part, they've been pretty benign. They haven't been that strong. We've seen some stronger storms to the north, and I'll break into a couple areas that are just outside of our area and talk about the stronger storms. Let's go into northern Iredell County first. This is where we do have some pretty strong storms. There's some active cloud-to-ground lightning around Turnersburg. So this is north of Statesville, up towards Love Valley, Olin, Harmony area, Eagle Mills. So that's a pretty potent storm. We'll have to watch that because the further north you get of Interstate 40, the higher the ingredients are for possible severe. You can see over towards Moxville as well. And I'll pull this out a little bit because you can see why Tim is busy. They've got some severe weather up there towards Mount Airy and just north of Winston-Salem. I'll turn the warnings on just so we can see the counties included in that. And you can see that does include Stokes, Surrey, Carroll, and Patrick. That's a severe thunderstorm warning until 7:15. Now, in our foothills, we do have a line of showers and storms, not severe, but there are some lightning strikes beginning to show up around Caldwell County. This is an area just east of Lenoir. That cluster is kind of moving east towards Taylorsville, Little River. So lightning is a big concern. We're going to be talking about lightning here a little bit later. But even though storms aren't severe, lightning is still a big issue. I had a lot of people last night when we were showing the big lightning strikes from that cell over Rock Hill going, this is pretty bad. It's a strong storm. Well, the thing is, and I'll just break down why some storms are warned for and others aren't. Severe thunderstorm warnings by definition have to have 1-inch diameter hail or 58 mile per hour winds or higher. And obviously, if it has a tornado, it would be a tornado warning, or a flooding event, it would be a flood warning. But if a storm is just strong, it doesn't get a warning. And there's no warning for lightning, though all thunderstorms do have lightning. So the loud thunder and active cloud-to-ground lightning, some storms have more than others. There's no criteria that says, hey, this is really loud thunder, so it's a bad storm. Even though at night, I get it. Maybe you're home, it's dark, and you get one of those big boomers, you definitely feel it. So we're seeing some pretty good storms like that right now, though they're not severe. They're still strong, and all lightning should be taken seriously, even in your home. Remember, it's not an old wives' tale. I think we crushed some people's dreams last night with the heat lightning. Your grandma was wrong about that, but she was right about not taking a shower or getting in the bath during a thunderstorm. That's a legitimate risk, and the reason why is if the power or the water lines get hit, that electricity can travel into your house. And I know what people are saying right now. They're going, but I don't have copper pipes anymore. It doesn't matter about what the pipe's made of. It's the water in the pipe that conducts the electricity. Just like wires have insulation on the outside that does not conduct electricity. It's the stuff inside, the copper wire. And in this case, inside your home, anything plugged into the wall or the systems, you can get shocked. And so this was a view of the lightning last night, and that's a slow-mo from our Dallas cam, by the way. That strike, look at it coming out of the side of the storm. So trust me, that where that lightning strike hit the ground, it was not raining. Something on the order of 80 to 90% of the people hit by lightning, it happens when it's not raining. You know why? Because when it's raining, people go inside. When there's just thunder and lightning, way too many people risk it and stay outside. So that lightning strike there was a prime example, and it possibly could have been a positive lightning strike. We refer to positive lightning strikes. There's polarity. Most of them are negative. Somewhere on the order of 90% of them are negative strikes. But let me show you the difference in negative and positive lightning. So negative strikes typically are pretty strong, but positive lightning, 10 times stronger, 10 times longer lasting, and can be 10 times louder. So when we see these positive strikes, and they typically are the ones that come out of the top of the storm, and if you've heard of the term bolt from the blue, those are the positive strikes. Trust me, if you get hit by a positive strike, one of two things happen. You're dead, and that's a direct strike. Two, if it hits your house, it's going to cause a fire. Those are the strikes that cause fires, cause forest fires. Those are the ones we are concerned about the most. So this evening, even without a severe thunderstorm warning, I want everybody to just be careful with these storms because lightning is our number one risk. So let me show you where we do have some warnings, because I joked at the beginning that we've had storms kind of going around us, the good old Carolina split, we sometimes refer to it. If we go to the south into the upstate of South Carolina, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning down there in the Greenville area. So this does include Anderson, Greenville, Spartanburg counties. And you can see, look at the lightning there. I mean, that's a good example. And let me just pause this for a second, because I want to tally or count the number of lightning strikes here. So what we're going to do is, and one of the cool things about our software here is we can take a look at the lightning. If I can remember where my lightning tracker is, we'll grab it right here. And what we're going to do is draw a box around this storm. And what this is going to tell us, before I reveal it, it's going to tell us how many lightning strikes within that box in the last 15 minutes. So we'll kind of pop it up here. So 116. Now this is cloud to ground strikes. Remember, you can have lightning cloud to cloud. Those count as strikes as well on most lightning trackers, but in ours this is cloud to ground. Look at that. 71 were negative strikes, but 45 were positive. I'll move that over so you guys can see the middle screen there. So a lot of positive strikes coming out of that, meaning there's a pretty powerful lightning strikes and potentially could cause a fire or cause damage. So that's a storm we'll have to watch, because it's got a warning and it's got a lot of lightning with it. Let's quickly look at the velocity data, which is the Doppler radar's ability to look at the wind speeds in there. Ooh, and I can tell you exactly why this has a warning, because you see the brighter shades of green there south of Greenville. That's a clear sign of some pretty gusty winds. And I'll just tally some of the winds. You could see anywhere from as low as 29 to 41 miles per hour. And if you see that negative sign, that doesn't mean it's a negative wind speed. In this case, the negative sign tells us the direction. Negative is winds towards the radar. Positive are winds away from the radar. So these are strong winds. And if you see the radar off to the right there, that sweeping line, that's the radar at GSP or Greer at the airport. Those winds are all blowing towards the radar, so they're outflow winds, and they're all going one direction. That direction is also important because we know the difference between straight line and rotational winds. When we have rotation on radar, we would see a negative big number and a positive big number next to each other, and that's rotation. And you see above our heads, thanks to James, we got that Greenville, South Carolina DOT cam. Ooh, James, that is not the fun stuff to drive. And
no, as a matter of fact, we have this wider shot. You can see all of the headlights. Slow southbound is going.
Look at the hazards. Oh,
do not use your hazards.
My biggest pet peeve right there. I was just going to say, I can't believe people don't have their hazards on.
The visibility in this shot, Brad, is just gone. I bet you if we come back to it before the end of the show.
So leave that up for a second.
Sure.
So why do we rant about turning our blinkers on? Look at the right side. Look at those people with hazards on. Notice how the lights go off every couple seconds. It's harder to see your car when it has the hazards on. A steady light is easier to see. It's scientifically proven, guys. Okay? Think about it. A steady light is on longer than a blinking light. Blinking does draw attention. So don't think a visibility is the same as attention. The other thing about blinking lights like that is oftentimes people think you're stalled or pulling over or something's wrong, and they're going to slam their brakes on, which can cause an accident. So in North and South Carolina, there is no law that says you shouldn't have your flashers on in heavy rain, in many other states, including Florida, but it is advised not to do it. So please, wipers on, lights on. That's the best thing you can do. Don't turn your hazards on, just turn your lights on. But that's a prime example of just how bad it is out there.
Look at the sea of flashing lights.
Yeah, and look how annoying that is. I mean, if you're driving, it's hard to judge distance. That's the other thing about flashing lights. It makes it harder to judge depth perception. You can't tell how far away or close something is, which in poor visibility is kind of an important thing. So that's the storm we're watching right now, moving through the upstate. Real heavy rain, right along 85, and that's bad news. So that's always a pretty slow section of 85 anyways. And you could just imagine, I mean, again, this is a great example. You can see headlights. I can see every one of those cars, those flashing lights. The visibility is just worse. Imagine if those were all steady lights. it'd be a lot easier to see. The other thing about having your flashers on, it disables your turn signals. So I'd have no idea what lane you're in or where you're going. So just think about that. In many cases, it's better just to have your lights on. So maybe someday, James, we'll have a law in North. Ooh, that was a pretty good lightning strike in North and South Carolina for that not to happen, because it does cause just all kinds of travel issues. And again, I know everyone's mind's in the right spot. They're thinking, I want people to see me. The problem is you're confusing people. That's not what that hazard light was meant for. And it confuses other people. It's like turning your right turn signal on, saying, I'm going to turn it on, but I'm going to go left. When your hazard's on, you're telling all the other drivers something completely different than what you think you're telling them. So just be careful. Please leave the hazards off. Just turn your lights on. So later tonight, James, we're probably going to watch maybe a couple lines of storms try to redevelop to the west. And I think this is going to be one of those late evening kind of arrivals for us. We're probably going to see our most active weather after sunset. And the reason that's the case, is I'm going to widen this out here in a second, is we've got a cold front. Now, don't get too excited. It's not like a true, like, oh my gosh, it's going to cool off. It's still summer in the Carolinas. But it is a front. It's basically a dew point boundary, meaning there's drier air behind it. The dew points could drop by 10 degrees, and that's why it's considered a cold front, even though it's not colder. That cold front will have dew points in the low 60s as opposed to the low 70s. So when that front gets here tonight, it's still going to be able to force the air up, even though we don't have sunlight, to kick off showers and storms. So that front is still back in Tennessee and Kentucky, and because of that, we're still going to see the potential for storms to linger for a while. So I want to quickly kind of show you the short range, what we call rapid refresh model here. This is our future cast, which only goes out 18 hours, and it's a very short range. That's why it's called short range rapid refresh, but it updates every hour. So we get a new update based on the latest guidance. So you can see it showing those scattered storms. I'm going to play this here, and we'll go a little bit into the future tonight. We'll pause this around 10. You can see the storms are still going to be pretty active at 10 o'clock. So we might jump back on Plus later tonight, or at the very least, make sure you join us tonight at 11 for the latest on these storms moving through. And we'll go through midnight. Look at that. Midnight still got some pretty good storms out there. And as we go into the overnight hours, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, we still have active weather. So that's the difference about the storms today. Pretty much the last week or so, they've been the typical pop-up during the afternoon, evening, and then sometimes they linger into the evening, but they tend to die down the later we get into tonight. Because of that front being able to force the air up, we're likely going to see these storms linger for a while. And as we go into tomorrow, you can see we've got the potential for those storms to be even around in the morning hours. So let's show you the hour-by-hour forecast tonight. And again, this is primarily for the southern Piedmont area. Notice temperatures, again, cooling down into the 70s. But look at the rain chances going back up around 1 to 3 a.m. So that should be a really good indication that, hey, you know, we're going to have at least some scattered storms lingering around as we go into the afternoon hours, or into the overnight hours, and then tomorrow afternoon we should begin to dry out. Sorry, I was looking at my watch. We just had a flood advisory issued for Alexander County. So we haven't had any flood warnings, which is good, but this is kind of the reason we wanted to be alert today, was because we could see localized flooding. So I'll go up there and show you that alert right now. You can see it clips the northern sections of Alexander County. And again, that's a flood advisory for Alexander County. It looks like a flood warning to the north there. And the reason there's a flood advisory and warning in this area, this is exactly what we were worried about. It's not one storm. It's the fact that multiple storms have moved over this spot and have caused water rises in many of the creeks or streams. So you can see back to the west, we've got another one developing. Let's just look at the rainfall totals here. We'll look at the 24-hour totals. So, oh yeah, you can see, especially up there towards Mulberry. I'm going to put some of the totals on here so you guys can see them. So this is right on the Alexander-Wilkes County line. It's about 2.5 inches. But up towards Mulberry there in Wilkes County, which is north of Wilkesboro and North Wilkesboro, you can see 3.7 inches. That's since midnight last night. So that certainly could cause some flash flooding, and that's why you're seeing some of the warnings up in that area. And that's really the biggest concern. It's not severe weather per se tonight. It's flash flooding. That is really our number one concern. And you can see the second line of storms moving in. So if you look off to the right there, the first batch, boy, that's really producing some lightning now around Turnersburg, Moxville. And then you see the next batch into Caldwell County. So, yeah, you could see that flood warning for Wilkes, but it's a flood advisory for parts of Alexander County. So again, that's our concern. Not so much wind, hail, tornadoes. It's really going to be lightning and everything else that comes with this. And so when we look at our impacts tonight, and this should probably include tonight, it says today, but you'll see lightning is number one because every storm has lightning in it and some have more than others. But flooding is our second biggest concern. And it will be isolated. Trust me, some of you are going to get really mad at me because you didn't water your lawn today or your garden. And you're going to say, Brad, I didn't get a drop of rain. There's a bubble around my house. I hear it with every event. But this is not a giant area of rain that's moving across the entire area. Some areas will have flooding like we're seeing in Alexander and Wilkes County, and other areas will not see so much. So something else that happened today, it was hot. You're probably, Brad, no duh. I was outside, right? But it was 92 today in Charlotte. And guess what? Lucky number 13. 13 days in a row of 90 plus. That is the longest streak since 2022. Now, why is this important? Because tomorrow, I'm going to show you the forecast. There's a chance this streak comes to an end, everybody. With that front coming through tomorrow and possible storms, I'm only going 89, which would be a huge bummer, James, because if we hit 89, we might as well hit 90. I'm at the point now, I want to keep this thing going.
I mean, why stop now?
Yeah, and the reason I want to keep it going is because we suffer. Well, you guys suffered. I wasn't here last week.
you were in Idaho.
I missed the worst heat and humidity. Trust me, I was watching it from afar. So I was in Boise, Idaho last week for the American Meteorological Society conference, which was great. And if you've never been to Boise, I swear I don't work for the Chamber of Commerce. It is an amazing city, but it was warm to I'd say hot. A couple days it got to 90. But no humidity. Dew points were like in the 30s. So it was great. Even in the middle of the day, you go in the shade or sit on a patio. It felt great. So when I was looking back at the Carolinas and I saw Charlotte, I think it was Wednesday, I was showing people that it was 100 over 74. And for people that understand what that means, that's 100 degrees over a 74-degree dew point. That gave us an all-time, I think, 3 o'clock p.m. record of 110-degree heat index. So one of the highest heat indices we saw. So because you guys all suffered through that, and we did, let's just keep the streak going. I would love to get into the top 10 list, and I'm going to show you the top 10 list again here. Bring that up full there, James. I want people to see it. So this is the list I'm referring to. Thank you. So we're at 13 now. If we go to 14 tomorrow, which would be great. If we don't, it ends. We start over. We could keep this streak going for a while because we're going to be back into the 90s by Thursday, certainly this weekend and all of next week. So we'll definitely get in the top 10 here. And what this summer reminds me of right now is that 2015 summer, number 8. I don't remember that long streak in 2020, but that was COVID, so I don't think we remember a lot of things from that.
We were inside a lot.
Yeah, I remember camping that summer, but I don't remember 20 days in a row above 90. But yeah, that was the COVID summer. But 2015, I do remember. That was a super hot summer. In fact, that was the last time we hit 100 until last year, and then once this year. But we had a long streak of heat that summer. And this June, by the way, was the hottest since then. So there's a lot of similarities to that 2015 year. So we could crack the top 10. So let me show you the good news. If we get this front, which is just a dew point boundary, sometimes referred to as a dry line, look at this. I mean, I'm almost giddy over this. For early July, dew points in the low 60s. Trust me, low 60-degree dew points in the summer feel great. If we get into the 50s, that's legit. You could do a fire pit this weekend.
I've been waiting for that.
And it would feel pretty good. The other thing about this is, I don't know about you, but our neighborhood pool is so hot right now. I went swimming in our neighborhood pool. It was 94 degrees in our pool.
That's like a hot tub.
They are actually asking for people to bring bags of ice on Thursday and dump it in our neighborhood pool to cool it down for the 4th of July because they want to bring the water temperature down for everybody enjoying it. So the one thing about having that dry air, though, I was going to say this, if you're at the lake or in your neighborhood pool or your backyard pool, if you have one, or the kiddie pool, doesn't matter, or even running through the sprinkler like my kids like to do still, once you do that and you get wet, that evaporation is going to make you feel cool. So you're going to have some pretty chilly conditions. So it is definitely going to feel refreshing once you get in and out of the water. But you got to cool the pool water down, and that's what we're going to try to do in my neighborhood this weekend. So, hey, if you know where I can get cheap ice, use that text message. Let me know, because believe it or not, James, you know what? I had a summer job in college delivering ice.
Really?
I worked 3 summers delivering ice.
I mean, there's something fitting about the weatherman delivering ice.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a tough job, 12, 14-hour days, 6 days a week. I made good money, but I remember delivering around this time of year, 4th of July, I was really busy. I delivered the ice to like those outside ice containers, grocery stores, but I also had to deliver like 300-pound and 600-pound blocks of ice for ice sculptures and like bars that would have like a luge that they would set up. And those things are fun. So I'm trying to find somebody who makes those, because I would love to throw one of those big ice blocks into our pool and have all the little kids try to grab it and jump on it and be all slippery. So I don't know anyone around here, but that was a good job. That was a fun summer job. But if I heard the Iceman cometh one more time, I was probably going to cry. So let me show you the weekend forecast. We'll get to this here, and because this is what everyone cares about, right? The weekend's coming up. It's 4th of July. I mean, this is great. I can't remember a 4th of July weekend that probably had this good of weather in a long time, because low 90s, that's warm, but the average high now is 91, so that's pretty close to normal. But the fact that there's probably not going to be any storms, and I dare to say 0%, but let's say less than 10% chances of rain, which in the summer is like unheard of, and the fact that it'll be low dew points, that you just don't see that. I mean, so I think most people want it to be warm for the 4th of July, right?
Great firework weather.
Yeah, you're going to the pool, the lake, you want it hot, but you don't want it super steamy where you can't enjoy fireworks once the sun goes down, because it'll be pleasant. You can throw a blanket out and feel good. So that's why it's going to be so great. And as I mentioned, if we don't hit 90 tomorrow, we'll break the streak. But I want to show you the 10-day forecast, because we'll just go long range here, because this show is flying already. You could see that once we get back in the 90s, possibly Thursday into the 4th, we're going to stay there. And so that's why I said we could add another 10 days. We could get to 24, 25 days in a row, possibly, if we hit 90 tomorrow. So tomorrow will be the key part of all of this, James, if we do not get back to 90. So we have a lot of storms across the east. While we're getting pretty lucky here in the Charlotte area, not everybody is so lucky. And I dealt with a little bit of this last week. I was traveling back from Boise. I was the lucky one. I think I had an hour-and-a-half delay flying back to Charlotte from Boise. I had to go through Minneapolis. I was so thankful I didn't fly through Atlanta, because they had a ground stop for like 4 hours. But with these storms on the East Coast, we've got major airport issues again today, because all the storms, I'm actually going to widen out our camera here in a minute, but you see the delays being listed right there. James threw them up to you, kind of showing. This is the thing about weather in the summer. And next week, I'm hoping next week or the week after, we're going to talk about airports and like why those storms are such a big deal in the summer. But all the issues right now are at the big airports around D.C. and New York. So and
some flight diversions, Brad. So
yeah,
we have this flight. This was
that going to New York?
Yeah. So Delta flight 2320 from Florida, destined for JFK, New York, diverted into Columbia because of how bad the weather is in New York. Jeez. Same thing with this other Florida flight to New York, diverted into Greensboro. Now we didn't spare all of this when we were getting those storms earlier. This Harrisburg, Pennsylvania flight to Charlotte actually got diverted to Columbia. And that must have happened just as these storms were coming overhead. This is time-lapse from an hour or so ago.
So, yeah, this was the line. We were watching around 5 o'clock or so, and those storms looked pretty ominous, and then they just kind of fizzled. So watch the time-lapse here. As bad as that looked, the sun started coming out here at the end. And this is a great example. I said during the show, this is why forecasting the summer is so hard. Everybody on the left side of the screen there is getting an absolute deluge. On the right side, it's sunny. They're going, what rain? That's the nature of summer. And the thing about summer rain chances, I think we emphasized this on our first week of the show, was, the thing about rain chances, that probability of precipitation, 40, 50, 60%, whatever you see from us or on an app, that has nothing to do with the duration or intensity. It just has to do with the fact that you're going to see rain. So a 20% chance of rain could mean a flash flood and a severe thunderstorm if you get into that 20%. I always equate it to winning the lottery. Even though the chances of winning the lottery are tiny, it's a huge sum of money. And sometimes in weather, that's the way it is with rain chances. It's like winning the rain lottery. You can really cash in big time. So, James, the fact that those are being diverted to Columbia, I was just telling somebody, for some reason, a lot of flights get diverted down to Columbia.
They do.
And I never understood why. I had a friend, and this was a horror story. I could tell you tons of these, but they were coming back from international trip. It was not overseas, but it was down the Caribbean. And they were coming to Charlotte. They got diverted to Columbia. Guess what the problem with that is?
There's no customs at Columbia.
Yes, there was no customs. And so guess what happened? They were trapped on the plane the entire time. So they got diverted to an airport that did not have customs. And when you're coming from overseas, you have to go through customs, obviously, coming back in the United States. So that was a little bit of a nightmare. They got stuck on the plane for hours and hours, and that's always a problem. The biggest issue with these big airports in the Northeast, I'm talking the New York area, so you've got two major airports there, LaGuardia and Kennedy, and you've got two major airports in the D.C. area, Reagan and BWI, which is Baltimore Washington Airport. All four of those airports are being impacted by storms right now. And think of all the planes that fly through there. So you've got U.S. Air, old U.S. Air, American. I loved U.S. Air, by the way. Who else? You got Southwest goes through Baltimore.
They do.
Who else? Does United go through LaGuardia?
They do a lot of Newark.
Newark, that's the one I'm thinking of. Okay, say Newark would be the other one. So pretty much, I mean, everybody, even Delta has some flights in that part of the country, are all going to be impacted. And if you're at an airport where it's sunny and dry, like right now in Charlotte, and you're wondering, where's my plane? Your plane could have been going through one of those other airports, and that's the trickle-down effect. So the summertime, and we're going to hopefully have a whole show about this. I'm working with the airport right now on some information and content. I'm actually going to do some social media stuff with them about why weather in airports in the summer is so problematic. People, I think, often think, man, winter weather is the worst for traveling, right? Nope. For air travel, it's severe thunderstorms or just thunderstorms in general. They have a huge impact on airport travel. And think about it, it happens during the summer and spring when people are doing the most vacationing and traveling. So again, we'll keep an eye on these storms right now. Nothing severe in our area, but we've had some strong storms to the north and south of us. We'll be keeping an eye on this throughout the evening. Of course, if there are any warnings, we'll break back in. Make sure you're following us on social. Follow me as well, WX Brad, and make sure you stick around because Colin's going to be up here in a minute talking about the news of the day. You might see me jump into a show if we get some of those storms.